Hello and welcome to JoyNews Prime with me, Razak Musbao. We are coming to you from our studios here at Kokomlemle. We are live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125 and around the world on myjoyonline.com. Coming up in this bulletin, full complement of parliamentary committees established ahead of Finance Minister Dr. Kpandai Atuforsan presenting the 2025 budget on Tuesday. We have details of the members of Parliament leading all the key committees of the House. Also in this bulletin, politically exposed persons should be permanently barred from acquiring state assets under any circumstances. That is the suggestion of some experts as calls increase for stricter restrictions.
Even the politically exposed person should continue to be politically exposed till he dies. It shouldn't be 4 years. Once you know you want to go into politics, know that you have no power in future in this country to go and buy any state property.
Also, Mahama pledges to bridge ECOWAS and Alliance of Sahelian States divide as he pushes for stronger security cooperation in Mali.
I think that there's a choice that Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have taken, but that won't be an impediment in us continuing to have our bilateral relations with all those countries.
We've got details coming up shortly. Please do stay. Now let's start from Parliament because they've formally established all select and standing committees of Parliament after more than 2 months since the 9th Parliament was inaugurated. It comes as Finance Minister Dr. Kpandai Atuforsan prepares to present the 2025 budget to Parliament on Tuesday. The committees will be tasked to consider the budgetary estimates of the various government agencies before the entire Appropriation Act is approved by the House. So who leads which committee? Parliamentary Affairs correspondent has the details.
The powerful Finance Committee, which will consider a bunch of estimates of the 2025 budget, will now be chaired by Isaac Adongo, with the NPP minority tapping former Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam to be the ranking member. The Subsidiary Legislation Committee, which will be chaired by an opposition MP, will now be led by Patrick Boama, with Medina MP Francis Susu serving as the ranking. Another committee, which is chaired by the opposition, is the Assurances Committee, which will now be chaired by former Defence Minister Dominic Nitiwo. The Public Accounts Committee will also be chaired by an NPP MP, and Abena Osei Asare, a former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, will step in the shoes of former MPs James Klucha Aveji and Kweku Agyemang Menu to chair this committee tasked with ensuring the judicious use of public funds. The Budget Committee will also be chaired by another NPP MP, Kuku Kwatin. The Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee will be chaired by returnee NDC MP Shaibu Mahama. The Food and Agri Committee will now be led by Dr. Godfred Seidu Jasso. Alhaji Collins Dauda, currently the longest ever serving MP, will chair the Lands and Natural Resources Committee, with Dr. Market Nawani also leading the Health Committee. His ranking member will be former chairman, Dr. Nana Ayew Afriye. Alfred Oko Vanderpoy will chair the Foreign Affairs Committee. Former Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abujinapo will be the ranking member. James Agalga will chair the Defence and Interior Committee, while Dr. Zaneto Agyemang Rawlings will chair the newly created Security and Intelligence Committee. Peter Nochuko Toy will chair the Education Committee, with Emmanuel Kwesi chairing the Energy Committee of Parliament. Beyond considering the budget, these committees will also have oversight responsibility over ministries, departments and agencies that fall under their supervision. Kweku Asante for Joy News.
Now, meanwhile, Finance Minister Dr. Kpandai Atuforsan has assured traders and businesses across the country that their voices will find expression in the 2025 budget to be presented to Parliament on Tuesday. With inflation still above 20%, import duties rising, and a weak cedi, businesses have been struggling and have been demanding urgent action to improve the economy in order to sustain their business. Dr. Kpandai Atuforsan on Saturday interacted with traders at the Makola market and assured them there will be solutions in the budget.
Man, via some markets, business a woman, and I'm a man who to come. But the business in the shake ya. Ma, Jumana and Makola. It's good. What was I getting my way in China? Maybe I must say $1 cost. Yes, we are in the $1 Ghana. I had the city. Missy, Mamma, me, Namu, I'm catching 30 years in me to about that. Oh, no one was my member. After waiting, I'm to Abaman, me person black. Into your pamucho.
In Ghana, our price are not stable because of the dollar. It's never to me stable. Every month, yes, the price now the local markets and the consumers in Switzerland they have
some problems in the face.
Yeah, my face problem this year means me brand tank. I'm making out this year.
What is the problem?
The problem was the price has increased. It was 1,350, but now it is 1,750. Just 3 weeks.
Just 3 weeks.
Yes.
From 1,350.
Yes, 2,750.
2,750.
So I was returning back. Because
wow.
The way how the price I gave it to them over there, and now that it has increased about double, I can't afford it.
Now, there are growing calls for a stricter ban on public officials acquiring state-owned properties, including land. This follows a private member's bill by the Foreign Affairs Minister soon to be presented to Parliament, aimed at preventing public officials and politically exposed persons from purchasing state lands. Lawyer and Senior Vice President of Imani Africa, Kpandai, argues that the law must go even further, barring such individuals from acquiring state assets for at least 4 years after leaving office. He shared his views on Newsfile with Samsoladi Ayenini.
I totally agree. In fact, I have an addition to that. That anybody who is politically exposed may not, when they are in office or 4 years thereafter, purchase any state properties and cannot participate in an auction. Because of the gaming, you know, the time here is not enough to go through all of this. But when you say they will game the auction, okay, who is going to do it? It's the politicians and their friends. So that private member's bill, I've discussed it, and I haven't spoken to Okidito, but I would want him to add that no PEP shall participate in an auction, one. Number two, 4 years after you leave office, you may not. Okay, that's part of the stewardship we're talking about. Okay. Right? And of course, people say, oh, they will let their cronies go and do it. We'll deal with some of these things as we get there. But you see, we are creating a situation where people get into politics just to amass wealth and create capital. And it is bad for our country because in other places it's led to civil wars. We should stop it somewhere. If you want to amass your property and get whatever, go into the private sector, go and work.
Now, also, Member of Parliament for Garu, Dr. Thomas Anaba, is advocating for even tougher stance. He insists that the proposed 4-year ban is inadequate and that politically exposed persons should be permanently barred from acquiring state assets under any circumstances.
One other thing I would like to say about his proposal he's making is that even the politically exposed person should continue to be politically exposed till he dies. It shouldn't be 4 years. Why? Once you are politically exposed today, tell me, those who worked under Kufuor, are they not politically exposed? How many years now have they left office? They are still politically exposed. Once you know you want to go into politics, know that you have no power in future in this country to go and buy any state property, whether land or vehicle or house or whatever. Then you know that you are taking a risk to go into politics. And politics, to me, is service. Yes. A service. You are coming to serve and clean your hands and go away and know that you work voluntarily for the country.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Walewale, Dr. Tia Abdul Kabiru Mahama, who supports the bill, has questioned the decision to reverse the sale of Foreign Affairs Ministry lands from the past 8 years. He suggests that the move appears politically motivated, arguing that any directive on state land sales should have been broader and more comprehensive.
But this order is very good. But the problem that I have with the order is, what is the scope of that order? What is the scope of order? You can't then all of a sudden decide to think that...
This one is to foreign affairs lands.
Yes, so that foreign affairs land, what is the scope? Every single foreign affairs land that has been, should be reversed. Or those that were acquired in the last 4 years. It gives a sense that you are targeting sales of land at a particular, limited to a particular regime. But if you want to carry the good people of Ghana along, you have to take a definite principle that we are going into the review of the sales of land belonging to the foreign ministry, and we are reviewing every single allocation and then revoking same if there need be.
Now, President John Mahama has reaffirmed Ghana's commitment to serving as a bridge between the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the Alliance of Sahelian States to foster mutual understanding and cooperation. Speaking during a state visit to Mali as part of his good neighborliness tour, which will also take him to Burkina Faso and Niger, he acknowledged the ongoing tensions between ECOWAS and the Sahelian states, but emphasized that collaboration remains possible if both sides engage in good faith. His visit comes at a critical time as relations between the two blocs remain strained following the withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from ECOWAS.
And finally, we discussed the revival of the Permanent Joint Commission for Cooperation between Mali and Ghana. The last meeting was in 2011 in Accra, and the next meeting was supposed to take place here, but due to some circumstances it didn't happen, and so we're looking to revive it so that as early as possible we can send our technical team to come and sit with our Malian counterparts and discuss how we can increase and strengthen the cooperation that exists between our two countries. We discussed it, and we recognize that there's been some issues of trust, problems with trust between the two groups, but at the same time, I think that we must establish mutual respect for each other. And I'm sure that if we're able to do that, we can continue to work together. I think that there's a choice that Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have taken, but that won't be an impediment in us continuing to have our bilateral relations with all those countries.
Now, during discussions with Mali's transitional president, Assimi Goïta, President Mahama also underscored the importance of enhanced defense cooperation between Ghana and Mali in the fight against terrorism. He reiterated that a terrorist threat in one country is a threat to all, stressing the need for stronger regional collaboration to tackle security challenges across West Africa.
And most importantly, we discussed issues of how we can strengthen our defense cooperation in the light of the fight against terrorism, and how Ghana can be of help in terms of cooperating with the Alliance AES in terms of the fight against terrorism, because we all occupy the same sub-region, and terrorism in one country is a threat to all of us. And so we had quite a discussion on how we can strengthen our bilateral relations in terms of the fight against terrorism.
Still watching JoyNews Room with me, Razak Musbar. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back with more. Please do stay. Welcome back. Now, a devastating rainstorm has hit the Buya and Wiae communities in the Kpandai district, killing one person and causing widespread destruction. The storm, which struck late in the evening, unleashed strong winds and torrential rains, destroying an estimated 500 houses and leaving scores of residents homeless. Authorities and local relief teams are assessing the extent of the damage as affected families appeal for urgent support. Many affected families are now seeking emergency assistance, with local leaders calling on the government and humanitarian organizations to provide relief items and support for rebuilding efforts.
The storm's impact was felt far beyond the physical destruction of their homes. The residents reported losing essential belongings, including books, and are now struggling to come to terms with the loss. The affected communities are appealing for aid. The area coordinator of the Wee electoral area has called on the MP for the area and philanthropists to come to their aid.
There was a heavy rainstorm that hit us some days ago. It was so terrible that it destroyed our homes. Our foodstuff is lying in the open. Our children's books and other belongings were all spoiled. So we are appealing to the MP and others who can help to come to our aid. We have actually lost a lot.
The son of the deceased, Yasagma Nelson, shared an account of how his father passed away during the rescue effort.
The clouds gathered and was so thick that we even call it a storm. The wind lifted the roof and it landed back in the room. My father, who has been sick, was in there. So my brother rushed in to lift him out, even though the roof didn't hit him. But we believe it was a panic attack that led to his death.
Now, residents of Zugu Yile in the Kumbungu district of the northern region are facing severe water crisis after their primary water source, the local dam, dried up, with the only borehole in the area providing limited supply. Residents fear for their health and livelihoods as access to safe drinking water becomes increasingly difficult. During a visit by JoyNews, community members voiced concerns over the worsening situation, calling on authorities to intervene urgently before conditions deteriorate further.
The northern region normally experiences water scarcity during the dry season. This is therefore not an isolated issue. The region typically experiences severe water crisis between November and April each year, resulting in dry dams and water shortage. The lack of pipe water in most communities heightens the problem. Some elders from the Zugu community said if nothing is done, it will be devastating.
I want to appeal to the NGOs to come to our aid and dredge our dam for us. Our neighboring communities, Zoyilpane and Satang, we both rely on this dam. And as you can see, it's completely dried up. Together with our livestock, we drink from this dam. Our women are suffering because of the water scarcity. We need support. Our community is a farming community. If we get an irrigation dam, we will all delve into vegetable farming with our wives.
A development worker with the Jaksali Development Organization, Seydou Jeremiah, also appealed for assistance to address the water crisis in the area.
This dam needs to be reworked on, and they need water. They are not too far from Dalong, the community that supplies the whole of Tamale with water. So for us, we, as a development partner, we are calling on the Ghana Water Company, the MD and the team. We are calling on the assemblymen, we are calling on the member of parliament. We have already approached the chief and he's been with us in the community. We are calling on Northern Regional Minister. We want to see how we can support our women to have water.
Now, the Vice-Chancellor of the Simon Diodon Dombo University of Business and Integrated Development Studies, Professor Emmanuel Kunchene Debrebe, is urging students to support work to address the university's infrastructural challenges. The university has numerous abandoned and uncompleted projects scattered across its campuses, hindering a conducive learning environment. Speaking at the 5th matriculation ceremony in Wa, Professor Derry Bile highlighted efforts to revive stalled project through the Accelerated Get Fund Completion Initiative. He also appealed to the Education Minister Haruna Idrisu for urgent intervention to ensure the speedy completion of these projects. Meanwhile, in a remarkable moment at the event, the university's 68-year-old foundation dean was among the new law program matriculant taking the oath alongside his 24-year-old daughter. JoyNews Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
The Simon Diodon Dombo University of Business and Integrated Development Studies, SDDU-BITS, was established by Act 1001-2019 as a public university with the mandate to become an international acclaimed applied research and practical-oriented educational institution dedicated to the development of business and integrated development studies. The matriculation therefore held is the 5th since it metamorphosed from the war campus of the University for Development Studies, UDS, to its current autonomous status. Vice Chancellor of SDDU-BITS, Professor Emmanuel Derebele, reminded the matriculants that they were not only admitted into the gem of the Upper West region, but a university with a global outlook. Professor Derebele, however, conceded that as a new university, it is not without challenges as it faces serious infrastructural deficits.
We aim at mobilizing funds and working with stakeholders to accelerate the completion of GET Fund projects on campus and to initiate other IGF-funded infrastructure projects that are critical for enhancing teaching and learning.
Key among the projects is the ultra-modern library complex, which was started some 15 years ago. Professor Derebele appealed to the government through the Education Minister, Haruna Idrisu, to help fix the challenges.
Now, gender and inclusion specialist Dinah Adiko is calling on government to dismantle systemic barriers that prevent women from reaching their full potential in the workplace by eliminating patriarchy. Adiko expressed concern that women in Africa are often relegated to lower-paying jobs and excluded from prestigious sectors. She spoke at an event hosted by the Zonta Club of Accra to commemorate International Women's Day. Jamila Abagre has more in this report.
International Women's Day, celebrated annually on March 8, recognizes the ongoing fight for gender equality and women empowerment. This year's theme, Accelerating Action, calls for concrete steps towards change. Speaking at an event to commemorate the day, Dinah Adiko urged government to reform workplace structures that reinforces gender inequality and limit women's growth.
We're saying that promote gender equality, address systemic barriers. Some of the challenges we face that people think to the point that it is natural, it is because the system has accommodated and tolerated it. The system has said, as for women, they are like this, and as for men, it is like this. It is such that sexual abuse and sexual harassment is so rampant that some of us have normalized it. As for women, yeah, especially if you are a beautiful woman, this is bound to happen. We have internalized and admitted issues of inequality and abuse. And we are saying that address those systemic barriers. They are built within the systems. And then remove patriarchy, dismantle patriarchy is a system that supports male superiority. And we are saying dismantle that and let's support human rights and equal rights. And remove all forms of inequalities and promote inclusion and inclusivity.
She also commended women in leadership, highlighting the contributions of female chief justices, ministers, and Ghana's first female vice president, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman.
Many women have broken the glass ceiling. We have had many firsts in our country. We have our chief justices, we have speakers of parliament. I think we've had one female so far. We've had so many female vice chancellors. We just woke up one day, po, there they were.
You know, we have heads of corporate institutions. We have had female ministers in. I mean, we keep going and coming. That place is too slippery. I don't know why we can't just go up. But we also have had a first female vice president, and that is big.
Well, that's all we have for you on JoyNews Prime. Tonight, with me, Razak Busbao. We're back tomorrow. Do have a lovely evening.